Hey everybody, this is Connor here for Connor's English Corner on definitely not January 15th, 2018. I think this is episode like 11 now. Um, yep, sorry I haven't had anything out the last couple weeks. I was sick and school started back and lots of stuff. But hopefully I'm going to be spitting out a good bit of content over the next couple weeks with Worlds having just wrapped up. And a couple of decks I want to cover. And we finally have more releases for English, but I'll talk about those next week. For now, we're going to be talking about Kantai Collection, Kancolle as the English set is listed. This will be the yellow, green, blue deck. There's sort of two big variations of Kantai running around right now, one that has blue and one that doesn't. I'm going to be talking about the one that does have blue. I'm not sure either's positioned in an amazing spot in the meta right now, but they both still see a lot of play. This might actually be the lesser played one right now, but this is what I'm going to talk about. So deck overview. Biggest draw to your deck is all the like anti-heal, anti-salvage. You have a lot of just effects that don't let the opponent play the game how they want to, which when the set came out was its biggest sort of why it was so amazing, along with just good top end, good utility. This deck focuses on a wall strategy throughout the game, which it's one of the few decks that can probably actually wall out Sword Art and AOT right now. It can't do it amazingly well, but it can get there, and not many decks can do that right now. We do have really good utility cards still, so I'll be talking about those. The issues with the deck is that if your field-based advantage does get broken through, you don't really have too much of a backup form of advantage in the deck until level 2. So you can fall behind on resources. And your finishers, by today's standards, aren't amazing. In combination with anti-heal, they're still pretty threatening, but on their own, they're cards that are very expectable, not very just mind-blowing nowadays. But with that, the deck list. This list is based off of what I played in the BWC 2016 season. So that was a while ago, almost a year and a half now. But seeing as Kantai hasn't really gotten more support since then, the deck hasn't changed too much. Maybe some numbers to change around, some stuff in the level 1 lineup. But I'll talk about what all these cards do, why they're here, what some other cards that you might want to play are. First off, we have 7th Kagero-class Destroyer Hatsukaze. So all your other Fleet Girl characters get plus 500 power, just your typical global. And during the attack phase, when either player puts a character from their waiting room to their hand, all of that player's characters get minus 3 soul until end of your turn. So this is what's commonly referred to as anti-salvage. It is present in a couple of sets, notably Tolovru, which I've covered in the past, has this exact effect. So this is just making your guys bigger and preventing a lot of decks that just run doors or have salvage combos. Some of those being Nisakoi often runs the Marika level 1 combo and doors. Some variants of Sword Art that have been running around play doors. Madoka runs doors. I'm trying to think of what else off the top of my head. Kill runs doors. Excel World definitely runs doors, and Excel World has a salvage combo at level 2. So yeah, there's some decks running around with doors. Some Konosuba variants have been running doors, and also might play a salvage combo. So you just hit lots of random stuff with this, and just make them unable to play how they want to. While at the same time being a global 500. So we can front row this if we have to, otherwise we just sit it in the back row, powers up all our guys, helps us with our wall strategy, and shuts down a couple of decks. Next we have 2nd Akatsuki-class Destroyer Hibiki. So this is also one of our sort of anti-fun cards. When this card becomes a reverse in battle, you may pay the cost. If you do, choose a card named Faithful Destroyer Verni in your waiting room and put it on stage position that this card was on as rest. This cost is pay 1, put this in the memory. This is pretty good for us. It's effectively replaces itself for 1 stock. which is just a 1 cost plus, which is good anyway. But also, while it's in memory, if either player puts a card from the clock to the waiting room due to their own effects, that player may put the top 2 cards of their stock into the waiting room. If not, then they put the top card of the deck into the clock. So you effectively force people to pay 2 extra stock to heal. If you have multiples of this in memory, that does stack. So if they heal when you have 2 of these in memory, both Hibikis will activate and they will have to pay 2 additional stock twice. Or they can choose to pay 2 and take another damage, or they can choose to pay nothing and take 2 damage. So if your opponent doesn't realize this is in your memory and they heal, they're probably in for a world of hurt if you have multiples of these. But really it's just there to discourage decks like Excel World plays healers, Sword Art plays Xenon heals, Switch Kirito heals, Linked Strike Xenon heals. Televery plays Mekon healer. It usually doesn't field it though, so that's just sort of there. Field Swap Mikasa in Attack on Titan heals, so it discourages your opponent from using that. What else do we have right now? Upcoming in Persona 5 next month, the Joker level 3 heals. So a lot of these cards that people are going to be playing as part of their strategy anyway, they're now not getting the heal benefit from it. Which makes your top end more likely to be able to kill them over the course of 2 turns, rather than dealing some damage, them healing back down, and then you maybe not being able to kill them. Next we have Clumsy Girl Inazuma, Inaduma, as the English card says. When this is placed on stage from your hand, reveal the top card of your deck. If it is not a Fleet Girl character, rest this card. Unfortunately, we do have that demerit, since we're 2500 power. Sometimes I really wish this card was just 2k and didn't have that, but you're only missing on climaxes and events most of the time, so it's not a huge issue, but it feels very bad when you try to field this on turn 1 and it rests itself. This is a very good turn 1 play. Your other effect is when this card is placed into your waiting room from the stage, you may pay 1 stock, put the top card of your deck into your clock. If you do, search your deck for level 1 or lower character, reveal it to your opponent, put it into your hand, shuffle. So this is another sort of 1 cost plus, but since it activates when it moves from stage to waiting room, you can play it on turn 1, attack with it to build its own stock for its effect. So I really like cards like that where they activate when they die, since you can play them turn 1, and they generate their own cost for their effect. It does clock yourself. Not really any benefit to clocking yourself in this deck, but it's pretty typical cost for this kind of thing. Next we have a Winter Moment Akatsuki. On play, you can discard a card to look at up to 4 cards from the top of your deck, choose a Fleet Girl character from among them, reveal it, put it into your hand, put the rest in the waiting room. So this is your costless discard out, your costless mill, just generally good utility. We're playing 4 gold bars and 4 pants in this deck, so we can often add climaxes to hand as pluses, and then trade them for a character with Akatsuki. This is a very good card. Definitely playing 4 copies of this. Next we have Command Ship of the 2nd Destroyer Squadron, Murasame-Kai. It's partially in here for blue color fix, partially in here for a couple other reasons. When a climax is placed on your climax area, this gets 1500 power until end of turn. If you play this down going into level 1, sometimes you can kill your opponent's stuff with it just by playing a climax and pumping up to like 5k or whatever. Sometimes. That effect usually isn't too great, since you don't really want to be playing climaxes at level 0 in this deck. But you can, and kill oversizes and stuff. Your other effect, though, when this card attacks, you may pay 1, put a card from your hand into your waiting room, search your deck for up to 1 Fleet Girl character, reveal it, put it in your hand, shuffle. So it's instead of an on-play drop searcher, it's on attack. Downside to this is that you can't play it and immediately search for a card that you need. Upside is that you can use this to pay out climaxes that you trigger mid-battle phase. So you often, if you have this, you'll just field it, swing with your other cards, and as soon as you end up triggering a climax, you pay it out with Murasame, and then go grab a card you need, like a counter or something. It's also blue, and we need blue in this deck because we play blue cards. So level 1 we have Faithful Destroyer Verni. This has a memory effect. If a card named second Akatsuki-class Destroyer Hibiki is in your memory, this card gains 1000 power. So if you have Hibiki in your memory, which you probably will, this is a 6k. And it also is brought out by Hibiki, so that's just good value. Yeah, 106k that can be summoned as a 1 cost plus is really good. So we're playing a lot of that. Next we have 3rd Myoko-class heavy cruiser Ashigara. This is a backup. It's a 1-1 backup, unfortunately. Kantai does not have any oversized 1-0 backups, apart from one that requires you to like reveal your hand. And even then I believe you still have to have a climax in your hand. So that one's not always the best like condition for being a oversized backup. But yeah, this is just a 2-5 backup. It can only power up Fleet Girls, but we're only playing Fleet Girls, so yep. Blue 2-5 backup, protect our walls, help with the wall strategy. Next we have Resupply Vessel Taigei. This is a 1-0-45, gains 500 for each of your other Fleet Girl characters. On a full board, it's a 1-0-65. If you have globals in the back, it is a 1-0-75 at best. So that's usually what you're going to be sitting on, is 1-0-75, and you have counters. So, yep, not giant, but it's respectable and it is costless. So that's what we're going with. We have newly constructed repair ship Akashi. So this is also a global 500. So normally your back row is going to be like this and a Hatsukaze, giving plus 1000 to your board total. I also put that this is a 1-1-2k. I think I forgot to change that from Ashigara. This is a 1-0-4k, not a 1-1-2k. But yeah, so this is Act, pay 2, rest of this card. You can search your deck for up to 1 Fleet Girl character, reveal it to your opponent, put it in your hand, shuffle. So this just grabs you whatever you want for 2 stock, and you're not spending a ton of stock on other stuff. Just Inaduma, Hibiki, for the most part, and your counters. So you probably are going to have extra stock that you can spend on this. Going into level 2, we have 4th Myoko-class heavy cruiser Haguro-Kai-Ni. This is a 2-1-75. It has a climax combo. When you play the climax, which is a pants, if this is in your front row, you can search your deck for a Fleet Girl character, reveal it to your opponent, put it in your hand, shuffle your deck. So this is our advantage combo for the deck. Instead of being at level 1, it is at level 2, but it is incredibly conditionless, does not have to reverse, does not have to attack, nothing. No conditions on it, just play the climax and search. So it's a bit late, but it is very consistent in getting us what we need. It also gives us more time to get the climax to hand, to effectively be able to use the combo. And then the other effect is, when another of your Fleet Girl characters is frontal attacked, you can put this card into the waiting room to give that character 3000 power until end of turn. So it's sort of another backup, but it is a backup from the field, and for no cost. It just sends itself to waiting room. So you can use this to play it, search stuff, and then sack it off to power up a different lane to win. So you can use this to deny on reverse combos, on reverse finishers even. It denies the reverse in the lane that you're protecting, and it also denies the reverse in its own lane if it has not been attacked yet, since it sends itself to waiting room. So that leads to some pretty nice stuff. Especially if the opponent's going to kill this anyway, and they attack somewhere else first, you can just sack this, and good value out of it. Or even if they've already reversed it, and then they attack something else, you can just send it to waiting room, because it was going to die anyway, so then you should get free power out of it. Next we have 2nd Yamato-class Battleship Musashi. This is our first level 3. So it's an 11,000 printed power, but it cannot side attack. The other effect is once per turn, during the turn that this card is placed on stage from hand, when your opponent cancels this card's damage, put the top card of your deck into your waiting room and deal X damage to your opponent. X is equal to that card's level plus 1. So this is what the common Musashi effect is named after, Musashi herself. It is a non-climax reliant finisher that just helps you consistently push damage through. Because even if your opponent cancels, you get to deal a little more again. Um, it's not really, you don't have good kill range with it, but you are able to just consistently close out games from a short range. So it works very well with the anti-heal we have as a just sort of 2-turn kill where you push your opponent and then finish them off the next turn since they can't heal the damage effectively. And our last level 3 is Akagi-class aircraft carrier Akagi-Kai, 3/2/95. On play, you draw up to 2 cards, choose a card in your hand, put it in your waiting room. So it can dig for other cards, dig for your Musashis, dig for more copies of itself, the climax, or your compasses. At the beginning of your climax phase, put all cards from your stock into your waiting room. This is mandatory. And all of your characters get 1,000 power until the end of your opponent's next turn. If you have multiples of these Akagis, then they will all trigger, and even if you have 0 stock, they will send all 0 to the waiting room, and you'll still get the 1,000 power. So if you field 3 of these, your whole front row is going 3k until the end of the opponent's turn, which is pretty nice. Helps you just get power to get your reverses. Because the climax combo it has is on reverse. When this card's battle opponent becomes reversed, if the climax is in play, put that character into your opponent's clock. So it's just standard clock kick. Does help you get a little extra damage. Obviously, the putting of the opponent's character into their clock can't be cancelled. So just some confirmed damage. Unfortunately, you do have to reverse. You're not giant, but you are. You have a respectable power level. If you play 2 of these in the climax, you're gonna be like 14-5 with your back row. So you can get some reverses. With Attack on Titan running around, it might be a little hard with maneuver gears. But in general, you'll probably be able to snag a reverse or 2 with one of these against most decks. Next we have Compass. I also don't know why I put 1-0 because this is a 1-1. I just wasn't thinking when I made this apparently. Didn't double check it. This is a 1-1 event. It is a counter brainstorm. When you play it, you reveal 3 cards from the top of your deck, put them into your waiting room. If there's a climax among them, you choose one of your opponent's characters in battle, and it gains the ability that it cannot deal damage to a player until end of turn. If you do not reveal a climax, then this card goes on top of your deck. So regardless, it digs you closer to a cancel. If you do mill a climax, then you negate their damage, which is effectively the same as canceling it. But if you don't reveal a climax, then you just milled clean damage off the top of your deck. It puts itself back on top of deck, but that's still, you milled 2 clean damage off. And might still have the chance to cancel. So, really good card. Good at preventing damage. Unfortunately, since it does choose your opponent's characters, it's not going to work against Yami, Darkness, anything like that. Those are the main 2 right now, Yami and Darkness, I guess. Oh, and Attack on Titan. Yeah. Can't do anything that has an arm and assist behind it. But otherwise, you can just, negate some damage here and there. Also helps with mill. If you do this into refresh, you can, if you know there's like no climaxes left in your deck and you have 3 or fewer cards, you can play this, mill out the rest of your deck so you don't take it as damage. And then it will put itself back on top of deck if you don't hit a climax, and you will be guaranteed that the compass is your refresh damage, which is nice, because then you're not refreshing a climax on accident, or something else you might need. So yeah, lots of uses for this card, just a good card overall. Next we have Akagi of the 1st Carrier Division is up next. This is our gold bar that combos with the Akagi level 3, just a 1k1. And we have Haguro of the 5th Squadron heading out, which is our pants that combos with the 2-1 Haguro-Kai-Ni, also a 1k1. So yeah, a couple other options that you might want to put in the deck. Some of these are a little hard to find room for, but they are some interesting cards nonetheless. First up, we have 1st Kagero-class Destroyer Kagero. This is a yellow card, so it's not really super on color for us, but it does help us fix a little bit toward Musashi and Compass. So 0/0/500. On play, you can pay 2 to search your deck for a Fleet Girl character, reveal it, put it in your hand. So same cost as Akashi to grab a character, just does a little earlier, and on play. And the other effect is when damage dealt by this card is cancelled, you may pay the cost if you do draw a card. So you can play this turn 1, swing with it. It generates its own stock for its effect. If they cancel, you plus for 1 stock, which is good. If they don't, you dealt damage. Next we have 10th Kagero-class destroyer, Tokitsukaze. This is 002K. This is a brainstorm, which you might notice we did not actually have any of in the deck, besides Compass. Typically we're just using Akatsuki for all of our milling, but if you do feel like you want a brainstorm to get a little extra mill, this is one of your options. It's a pay 1, does not rest anything, so it's just a spammable pay 1, reveal 4, put them in waiting room. For each climax, search your deck for a Fleet Girl, reveal it, put it in hand, and then discard a card and shuffle. So you don't plus off of this when you hit a climax, but it does search, and if you need to mill out, you can just do this as many times as you want and mill out a bunch. Next we have a Hardworking Ikaduchi. This is another brainstorm. This one is pay 1 and rest itself. Unfortunately it does not search, but it is choose a card in your clock, return it to hand, put the top card of deck into clock. This one does plus, but has a little less selectivity on it, and is in green. Benefit is that you can grab climaxes and compass, whereas your other brainstorms cannot, or your Tokitsukaze at least cannot. So it is the only thing that can effectively search, quote unquote, compass, but yeah, less selectivity. And next, our last brainstorm is Obstinate class leader Shiratsuyu-Kai. Sort of a brainstorm and a runner, though not really great at being either. The beginning of your opponent's attack phase, if this card is in your center stage, so front row, put the top card of your deck into your waiting room, mandatory. If that card is level 1 or higher, put this card into your waiting room. If it's level 0 or lower, you may move this to an open position of your center stage. So it's a runner that only hits on zeros and climaxes, and dies if you hit a 1 or higher. So you might plus, you might minus. It's good against decks that have on reverse combos, because no matter which one you do, you're dodging their combo. And sometimes if you have a full board, you might actually want to hit a 1 or higher and just die so they can't reverse you. So stuff like AOT. But yeah, and it's a 2500 power, so that's nice. But if you put it in back row, then you do not mill. So it will stay alive always if you put it in back row, which you might want to do for its brainstorm effect. Pay 1, rest 2 of your characters, reveal 4 cards from top of your deck, put them in waiting room. For each climax, draw up to 1 card. So it's not selective, it just draws you cards, but it is a brainstorm that can dig through your deck. Last we have Ka-class Submarine. So this is not a Fleet Girl, so it does hurt some of your effects that require Fleet Girls. If you have this on board, Taigei is not getting as much power. It doesn't gain power from your globals. Winter Akatsuki cannot grab it from top, etc. But on play, if the number of your characters in your opponent's front row is 1 or less, choose a cost 0 or lower character in your opponent's center stage, put it on the bottom of his or her deck. So this is good against decks that play like runners. If they go first and turn 1 play a runner, then you can play this and just bottom deck it, and negate their plus off of it. If they play something like Inaduma or Sitting Maya or Hibiki, or any of these things that have effects when they die, you can bottom deck those and they don't get their effect. So it's just really good at messing with stuff that wants to get a cheap turn 1 plus. Even if your opponent just feels like a 4000 power beater or something that they expect to live and be able to attack next turn, you can play this and bottom deck it. So that's pretty nice. But again, it's off trait, so that can mess some things up. But it is on color, which is nice. Next we have First Kaidai. This is, First Kaidai, I guess, VI class 6. I don't know how they want that pronounced. Type A Submarine, E168. This is just a backup, like vanilla 15 backup. But it doesn't cost stock, and Ashigara does. So if you want a costless backup, this is your on-color option. The green costless one is the it's a 1k that gains an extra 1000 when you reveal your hand for climaxes that I mentioned earlier. And there is a red costless one. So this is going to be your best color for just a costless 15 backup. So yeah, if you don't want to be paying stock for your backups, or you want sort of a split on backups, this is going to be the other one you play. For another level 1, we have Yubari-class light cruiser Yubari. It's a 116K, has 4 effects. You cannot play it if you have 1 or fewer climaxes in your waiting room, which usually shouldn't be an issue by the time you're playing this anyway, hopefully. If you have 4 or more stock, this gains 1000 power, becomes a 7K. When your opponent's character is returned to hand from the waiting room, choose one of your characters. That character gets 2000 power until end of turn. And if your level is 2 or higher, this gains 1500 power. So from level 2 and on, this is always 75, 85 if you have 4 or more stock, which is vanilla power. So it is at worst a level 2 vanilla that just doesn't have a soul trigger. And if you have the 4 stock, then at level 1, it's a level 1 vanilla. So it has respectable power, especially with your globals in the back row that can be putting this at like 8k at level 1, 9.5 at level 2. And the stock condition, if you attack with it last, as long as you had 1 stock going into your battle phase, you'll be at 4. Though you have to be careful that when you're using costed counters, this is one of the scenarios that you might want the costless counter. Because if you play an Ashigara and it bumps you down below 4 stock, you'll lose your 1000 power, obviously. But then the third effect here, when your opponent's character is returned to hand from waiting room, this does not specify during the battle phase, or during the attack phase, like Hatsukaze does. So this will also trigger off of salvage brainstorms, which Attack on Titan runs occasionally, with the new Mikasa brainstorm. And a couple other decks run salvage brainstorms right now. So this does trigger off of those. It triggers off of like salvage events. If, say, Bang Dream plays their Kasumi level 1 event, the Something in the Warehouse, you gain power off of that. Just random things like that. If Attack on Titan plays Krista level 0 and salvages something, you can give power. So you can just make things big. You can make yourself bigger. You can make your Taigeis bigger. You can make your Vernies bigger. Just whenever they salvage. Also gets around like climax phase salvage combos. Televeru Alien might play that from the trial deck. When they play the climax, they salvage. Just things like that. You can get around. If they're trying to dodge anti-salvage by playing these things, you can punish them anyway. Next we have second Shokaku-class aircraft carrier Zuikaku. This is a 2-1-5K. Its first effect is a climax combo, but you're never really going to be playing the climax. Combos with the wind. The main reason you'd be playing this, if you play it, is for the second effect. You can rest this card to give a character 3000 power until end of turn. This can just make your Akagis big enough to kill big things. Really the only reason you'd ever play this. I don't think it's worth it as much now as it was at one point. It would help you kill like Xenons and stuff if you canceled their burn 4. It can help you get over like Mikasas that have an arm and assist behind them. Things like that. If you just absolutely need that extra power. Otherwise, it's not really doing a whole lot for you. We have second Shoho-class light aircraft carrier Zuiho. It's a 2-1 backup. It's a 2500 backup. And when you play the backup effect, you can pay 2 and put the top card of your deck into your clock. Choose one of your opponent's characters that's a higher level than your opponent. Put it on the bottom of your opponent's deck. So this is an anti-change backup. The cost on it is not too great since you take a damage. Which one of the nice things about anti-change backups is that you do deny the damage from the character that's attacking. But this deals you damage anyway. So it's kind of iffy. Not a whole lot of things in English right now that you want to actually take a damage to get rid of. Though what's nice is that you do put them on the bottom of your opponent's deck, so they cannot encore their character if you anti-change it with this. Yeah, I think in general there's just not enough stuff that's worth this cost to be playing this back up in the deck right now. But it might become an option in the future. Last we have a level 3, first Yamato-class battleship Yamato-Kai. So this is on play, it gains shot, and on play you can pay 2 to give a character shot. It can give it to itself if you want. So it's just extra dealing instances of 1 damage when your opponent cancels. It costs more stock than Musashi, but can split up the damage more. So if you find yourself generating enough stock with the deck, this is an option. Or if you just don't want to spend $25 on Musashis, this is an option. A lot of people will play a split between Musashis in this. I'm just playing Musashis in the list because I don't think the deck really has enough stock to do this, or it's impactful enough when you do have the extra stock. But note that it's an option. Worst case scenario, you don't pay the extra 2, and you just play it as a 3/2 and it has shot. So it's just going to average slightly less damage than Musashi on cancels if you do that. But yeah, this loses less to anti-damage than Musashi does. If your opponent anti-damaged Musashi, then you don't get your damage or the extra shots. But this can split the shots up so that if they anti-damage, you still have shot on another character as well. So that's probably the main benefit for this. So yeah, here's the deck list again. Those are some options. The deck, it struggles a bit against just decks that swing really big on offense, that can actually break the walls even through backups. Those being Attack on Titan can occasionally get there, though not consistently on all of their lanes. Sword Art can get there, but again, not consistently on every lane. Soundless Voice will definitely be doing it, and against Soundless Voice, you just have to use Hibiki, and just keep getting that 1 cost plus so you don't run out of cards. And that's sort of your strategy in a lot of games where you're not able to get advantage through field. You want to be getting advantage through, definitely resolving your Haguro combo, but through Hibiki, Inazuma, and Akashi. To just use your stock. It sucks because you won't be building a lot, but you can use it to keep cards around. So yeah, thank you guys for watching. I will definitely be getting some more videos out soon. Sorry that we went so long without one. But yeah, thank you guys. Subscribe, comment, all that. Let me know what else you want to see. And I'll see you guys next time on Connor's English Corner.